Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of BIM Pure Live. I am your host, Nicolas Catelier. I am an architect, BIM specialist, and the founder of BIM Pure. We have a very special guest for you today. And as always, I like to glance at the chat and see where people are watching from. We've got Ryan from Florida. We've got Empowered Engineering Solutions from Cape Town, South Africa. And we've got Ebenezer from Ghana. I hope I said that right. So keep saying where you're watching from. That's always fun for me to know where people are watching in the world. So let's announce next week's episode. This is with Dan Stein. Dan is a famous BIM content creator, a blogger, and author of numerous books. He's also a design technology leader at Lake Flato, a renowned architecture firm based in Texas. And he's going to talk to us about Autodesk Forma. You might have heard about this tool. Autodesk acquired an app called SpaceMaker a couple of years ago, and they've renamed it to Forma. It's a web-based app that helps with sustainability studies and feasibility, wind analysis, sun analysis, carbon emissions analysis, all that sort of thing, and how it's being connected to Revit. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had much time to play with Forma. I opened it and played a bit with it. So I'm really looking forward for this session, even for myself, to learn what it's all about. And what's interesting is that Dan actually has real life experience with it to use this tool at Lake Flato. So it is next week, same day, same time, Wednesday, April 24th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And secondly, in February, we've launched the BIM Pure membership, and that includes the core Revit courses, basics, design, manage, and work families created by me and my team. We also have the Pro Template collection of families. Door collection is going to be released soon, next month. We have a collection of Dynamo script. We have BIM master sessions with various experts. One of them we're going to talk about today. It also includes access to our community. All of that can be is part of the membership, which you can get with your yearly subscription. So learn more at bimpure.com. And also I'm happy to announce that today's guest, in fact, Nehama, we've co-created the course. Well, Nehama did the course. We just did the editing and preparing it for the membership. It's a short course, a mini course of 28 minutes, and it's just been released today. And it's called BIM for Landscape 101. This is not a technical course, so it's not how about to use Revit specifically, but it's about principles of using BIM tools for landscape. So I'm going to let Nehama explain a bit more about it. So you can learn more about this at bimpure.com/landscape. And we actually have a promotion today that ends early next week. And finally, we're going to do a giveaway. So if you've been here before, you can type in, let me just start a subscription. Give me a sec here. Okay, you can type in raffle, raffle in the chat, and you can claim the prize at nick@bimpure.com. So type in raffle, raffle, and you get, and then if you win, claim your prize by sending an email to nick@bimpure.com. Okay. Just give me a sec here. Okay, so let's move to the guest. Nehama is the CEO at Arch Intelligence. She's an amazing landscape architect, and she's also a Revit and BIM expert. So, hello, Nehama. How are you doing?
I'm good. Happy to be alive. How are you?
Yes, I'm great. So nice to see you. We're just chatting before the show. It's your fourth time here, right? The first time
Yeah.
was in like September of 2021. So a few years later, we're rejoined. So
Yeah.
can you talk about the new course that, like the new BIM Master Session mini course that we did together? was your idea when you created this course?
Yeah, it was actually, first of all, thank you for putting this challenge in front of me. And I was thinking a lot, when you said let's do something, I was thinking a lot, what can I contribute, to people who are subscribed to your platform? What can I contribute to people who are working with Revit? And eventually, in my work, I have a lot of experience talking to clients, giving advice to clients about how to model landscape in Revit, in BIM in general. And uh, during the years, I came to see that a lot of the really confusing obstacles for people in modeling landscape are things that could be solved by simply understanding some key principles of how to even approach a landscape model, because it's a lot different than an architectural model. And these principles are very simple. They're very straightforward and easy to understand, but I never put them together and explain, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 things that you have to keep in mind before starting to model. So doing this mini course with you gave me this opportunity to take everything all the advices that I gave to clients, and I saw that they were really useful for their process. I could take all these insights and principles and just shrink it into a really short course. I think it came out really good. I hope everyone would like it, and I would appreciate your feedback on it. So yeah, that's the main principle, to just give you the basic, principles, the basic concepts and ideas that you should just keep in mind before you start to model. And hopefully they will make your entire process a lot more simple and a lot more understandable, I think. Maybe take some of the confusion out of the equation.
Uh, all right, so just that's at bimpure.com/landscape for those of you who are not part of BIMPure already. And I recognize a few familiar faces in the chat that are already BIMPure subscribers. So it's in your library. Check out the members resource, and the course is already there for you to watch.
Yeah, it's short, it's light and breezy, and it's something that you could, digest in one lunch break.
Yeah.
That was the purpose, that was the point. So go ahead and take a look at it.
All right. So again, bimpure.com/landscape. And okay, let's move back to Revit topics now. So today's topic is excavation. And in Revit 2025, one of the new feature is the excavation tools. So I know that with the environment plugin at Arch Intelligence, you already had some excavation features.
Yeah.
So can you give us some context? And also, I know that, I remember last year you told me with the toposolid tool, there were some mistakes or inaccuracies with the cut and fill quantities that were not quite right.
Exactly. Yeah. So I plan to get into all of these today. Okay. And I actually want to kind of ease into the topic. So I was thinking how best to present this new feature of excavation. And what I thought would be really interesting to do is to get all the context and then ease into the feature and then understand, the pros and cons of using it, what you can do with it, what you can't do with it. And just I built this entire story. So what we're going to talk about today, we will start by kind of investigating the historical aspect of Revit's approach to earthwork calculation. And then we will move towards Revit 2025 and then explore the new feature in depth, hopefully. And lastly, if I'll have some time, hopefully I will definitely demonstrate the environment tools and our approach to dealing with the excavation. So what I'm hoping to provide people today is both the context, the deep dive into the new tool, and also another approach of how to streamline this process with our tools.
Okay, so just before we get going, I'm going to pick the winner from the raffle. So give me a sec here. So let's pick the winner. So we have Ryan Bradley 10 on YouTube. So congrats, Ryan Bradley. Again, let me just share my screen. So send an email to nick@bimpure.com and say, hello, I am Ryan Bradley, and I want to claim my prize, and I will enroll you into the BIM Pure membership for 1 free year. Congrats, Ryan. Let me just type it in the chat. So now you can stop typing in a raffle in the chat. And if you're watching the replay like 1 year from now, sometimes I see comments from people like multiple years later typing a raffle in the chat. It's too late. It's only for people watching live today, April 17, 2024. So I'll let you keep going, Nehama.
Yeah, that's a cool prize. I mean, anyway, so that's what I was saying. We're going to start with the historical approach. And like you said, we have our own approach. We encountered some issues in Revit 2024. So I'm going to walk you through the entire thing, right? So in order to calculate cut and fill in Revit, what we do, historically, the Revit approach was to basically make a comparison between two surfaces, right? One in the existing phase and one in the new construction phase. And these principles allowed us so much flexibility. And it was embedded in the graded region feature, right? Even though it works perfectly without it. And I have some examples ready to just take a look at how it works. Hopefully, I mean, there's a lot of people who probably still work in older versions of Revit, so that might be, a useful insight for them. But basically, it worked in a very simple way. If you can see my screen now, you have an existing surface, right? You start your project by modeling the existing surface in the existing phase. For me, it's demolished in the new construction. You don't have to do it. Now, it really doesn't matter how you model your existing topography. It could be from a CAD survey, from a point cloud, from a CSV, any way you have to model your existing phase, right? And next, when you go over to the new construction phase, you can use the graded region feature, or my favorite approach, which is, I think, less confusing. Just copy and then paste the surface aligned to same place, right? And then, and that's the amazing part, when you have the new surface and you modify it in the topography properties, you get the cut and fill calculation, which for me, I think as a landscape architect, that was one of my favorite features in Revit. This is something that I couldn't get in CAD or in Rhino. And it's such a valuable insight, even in early phases of your design, right? So for me, it was heaven. And the nice thing about it that we discovered that you don't actually have to work with one big surface, right? You could just start to model pieces of your site. And each piece, here you can see a building pad. Each piece can show you the cut and fill values, right? So you can really get a lot of flexibility designing your site. And eventually you can create a schedule out of all of it and understand the quantities, understand your effect on the existing ground. You can see it in sections. You can see over here, I'm using different topographies, but I can still get the accurate cut and fill amount. And, us being a technology company, but also because we're talking about landscape and we were one of the pioneers in this area, we found ourselves having to also develop the approach and the principles and not only the tools. And this is something that people who enroll to my mini course can learn over there. But that's how we came to develop the not one big surface approach that I always talk about it. It's so great. It gives us so much flexibility to just design areas and get the cut and fill quantities of every part. And even when we were using floors, if I turn this model upside down, you can see that I have all the topo surfaces here, right? And each of them gives me the quantities. So eventually, throughout my design, I can keep track of my cut and fill. And at the finished stages of my design, I can know the overall cut and feel of my site. So that was the approach, I think, like forever, right? And it was heaven for me. I really enjoyed working this way. But then Revit 2024 came and introduced us the toposolid, which brought, so much benefits. I personally love the toposolid. I think it's a great advantage, and with environment we also leverage it to do all kinds of things that we couldn't do before. However, just like you said, we found some mistakes, and this really challenged our principle of not one big surface, right? So now I'm going to move to Revit 2024 and kind of demonstrate what was, the issue that we had with the toposolids. So this is Revit 2024, and these are two topo surfaces. Don't worry, I know topo surfaces in 2024, but it's just to explain what is going on, right? So I have two topo surfaces. This one is in the existing phase, and right above it, let me move to a top view over here so you can see. Right above it, I have the new construction phase topography. And without doing anything, just by having these two overlapping, I can get the quantities. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a snapshot of this. Remember the numbers, right? And now let's turn these things into a toposolid. I could do it with the generate toposolid. I just like to do it with the topography tools because I'm used to them and it gives me much more flexibility, right? So I'm going to make this into a toposolid over here, and I'm going to turn this one into a toposolid as well. And let's give it a nice type. I always like having pink elements in my design, so
maybe just one quick thing that we should explain. Let's say that people that don't know you, it's the first time to watch a session with you. So you're working at Arch Intelligence, and the tool that you've showcased is the environment plugin for Revit. Can you say kind of a few quick words and tell people where you can find this thing?
Yeah. Thank you for this point. So the environment plugin for Revit has been out there since, we started to work on it in 2017 because my boss, Ilya, which also greatly helped me to put this story together, because the challenge today was, how do I talk about excavation, not how to show the future. So Ilya was working in a very big landscape architecture firm, and he got demands to work in Revit. And being the crazy person that he is, it turned out to be a Revit plugin, and it became a full-time job. I got to know Ilya while working in landscape as a landscape architect. I started to work in Revit, give services to people, and one thing led to another. Today we have a set of more than 60 tools. We're dealing with model elements, with topographies. We're dealing with a lot of other things, actually. So I think there's something out there for everyone. And what you saw me doing right now, before, I was just converting them from toposolid to toposurface, which is, just to be fair, it's also possible with the generate toposolid that everybody has. I just, I think I get a little bit more flexibility this way. So, all right, so we had the topo surface, we understood what happened. Now let's see what's going on when we have the toposolid. So the toposolid still gives us the option to, if I select the new construction toposolid, and you can see that this one is being demolished, I still get the same data, right? But now I have a question, Nick. Do you see anything weird over here?
Yeah, it's not the same quantities that it used to be when it was a topo surface.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that it's not the same, take a look that we have a cut value. And this obviously doesn't go inside the first.
Yeah.
So let me get a screenshot of this one as well, just to do the comparison. So when we realized that, it really challenged our perception of not one big surface and being able to design small parts and small parts of the landscape in a very flexible way. So we thought what we can do with this issue, and eventually we decided to just do it on our own. So if you have environment, you would have this other parameter over here. So we created a feature in the shape of just one parameter that is calculate earthwork. And if I activate this parameter, I get all the results that I need. So I get the cut, I get the fill, and I get the net cut and fill. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that as well. And what I want to do is share my Snagit, right? And now let's put it all together to just take a look at it, right? So this is what we had with the topo surface. You can look at the numbers. This is what we had with the toposolid, which is inaccurate. And this is what we got with the earthwork calculation with environment. You can see the numbers are slightly different, but we examined our accuracy levels and we get pretty much the same level of accuracy as Civil 3D, which is the professional tool for these kind of things. So we're pretty happy with the result. I have to say that people who do still want to use the graded region feature and do still want to rely on Revit, it would still give you good results if you do not change. So from the existing phase to the new construction, if you don't change the type and the boundary of your new topo surface, then you might still get good results in the earthwork calculation. However, I find this extremely unstable because any minor changes that you would do to the type, if you split it, if you do anything to that, then it will mess up the results. So this is our cut and fill feature. And so getting this feature, we were able to still go on with the same approach that I showed you over here with the flexibility of being able to design my site piece by piece and understand, you know, the function, the material, and the slopes of each part of the landscape. So this is what happened in Revit 2024. And the other thing that happened in Revit 2024 when they introduced the toposolid, they also canceled out the building pads, which, you know, some people really hated the building pads and they were happy about it. And other people were really pissed off. I personally liked the building pads, again, because it gives you this really valuable information in a really early stage of your design. And I think it can be used in so many ways. I think there's even one live session that I did with you that talks about planning a neighborhood and how you can, you know, take the building pad tool into that.
Yeah, I think it was the second session. So, and there's a question on the chat, and I was also wondering, has it been fixed in Revit 2025, like the inaccuracies with cut and fill?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not as for now. And if you have other information, then I will be happy to know. So then Autodesk got a lot of complaints about canceling out the building pad. People complained because what Revit actually did with Revit with the toposolid, they actually allowed you to use all kinds of elements. And here I am in Revit 2025. They allowed you to use all kinds of elements to dig into the toposolid, right? You could just go cut, select the toposolid, select these elements. I should have done it as a void, but I just wanted you guys to see what I'm doing, right? So you could just take all kinds of objects and cut them into the toposolid, which again is great. And then Revit's approach was that if you want to create a building pad, you should just use a mass void, right? But they got a lot of complaints because, first of all, voids are not usable, not available in Revit LT. Not mass void and not model in place. And also, this workflow was kind of manual, right? Although I do think it's a really big advantage of the toposolid that you could just dig into it, create tunnels, see how walls are affecting the topography. So it's really nice. However, people still complained. And that's where we arrived through history into the 2025 version, in which Autodesk introduced the excavation tool. So when I click on a toposolid in the Modify tab, I can see over here the excavation tool, and now we're going to talk about it. So what does the excavation tool do? Basically, it's doing two main things, and I will demonstrate all of them. It's digging into the ground, and it provides the information and parameters to see how much was dug out of the ground, right? So let's take a look at how it works. It's kind of a combination between the Boolean cut and the building pad. So I see it as a replacement to the building pad, right? So let's click on, select the toposolid, click on excavate, and then select this toposolid over here. And you can see what it's doing. It really streamlines the process of working with a mess and having to create the mess and then dig into the ground. It just digs into the ground, and you can use floors, toposolids, and roofs to do the excavate, right? So I think it works perfectly, because take a look at this toposolid. I could just move it around. Let's do cancel. But I can move it around and I'll still have, the same influence. I can even, I don't know, change the sub-elements and it reacts to it. And I can do the same thing with this floor over here and with this roof.
Yeah,
So I guess
I've actually played quite a lot with this, and it was one of my favorite new feature in Revit 2025. And if I didn't have time to experiment enough, if there was some bug or issues, but I was like, it's actually better than a building pad, because if, let's say, you have a house and you want to dig a hole in the ground, like, you just use the slab basically for the excavation. It's like, that's much better than trying to fit the boundaries of building pad, in addition to placing a slab and all the foundation walls, and then you can cut the foundation walls and the footing inside of it too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it works pretty well. Both this and the cut. I mean, the cut feature works the same way in a sense that it reacts to any movement and changes. I haven't experienced any bugs with it as well.
do you know if the quantities are accurate? Because there's new excavation
as for now,
features.
we didn't have any reason to suspect that it's
Okay.
not accurate.
Okay.
I can't say that we did a very, very thorough exam, but it is accurate. It is a pretty reliable feature. And yeah, you mentioned quantities, so it's a good time to just show how the quantities are built into this feature. And I actually really like this behavior as well. So you have two places where you can find the quantities. First is you can click on the toposolid, and then over here you have the total excavation amount, and you have this individual excavation feature, which I really like. You click on view, and then you have a list. Now, what's nice about it is that you can see here all elements that are digging into the toposolid, not only elements that you use the specific excavation feature, but you can see my tunnel. I use the cut function, and it still shows here. And you can see the walls, each part of the walls. So this is really nice. However, what I found is that you can't really see which wall is which. And then that brings me to the second nice thing about this feature, is that you can also see these quantities embedded in each element. So once an element digs into the toposolid, you get this excavation volume over here. So every element will have this excavation volume parameter, just like, where is it? There it is, right? Every element has an excavation volume parameter. And what I think can be a nice workflow is to create a new schedule, a multi-category schedule, and then go maybe start with family and type, and then take the excavation volume on toposolid over here. Let's sort it according to family and type, and get the total calculation of the excavation volume over here. So now that I have a schedule, it's really easy for me to just see which element affects my toposolid in what way, right? So that's the overall feature. I think it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use, pretty stable for now. In the meantime, I haven't experienced any issues with it. However, there is one thing that I found out about this feature, which is a little bit weird, I must say. If I copy this topography and go to the existing phase. So I'm just going to reverse engineer the process, right? Usually you start with the existing topography. Here, I'm going to do it in the opposite way. Let me just paste it over here. Okay. So now I have this existing topography. And let me just, I don't know, create a floor over here. Let's make it 1 meter high. Now let's make it 2 meters, right? So the weird thing is that if I have a topography that is an existing topography, I could still excavate into it, which I find kind of confusing because if you excavate into the existing surface, then it's no longer the existing surface. It's the new construction, the proposed surface.
So it would just be best practice to say to users, don't excavate kind of existing
Exactly.
toposolids. So the
Exactly.
workflow in this case would be you create the toposolid, an existing phase, and you use the grading region tools, and it kind of duplicate the toposolid in the new phase, and then you can start excavating it, ensuring
Again, I
everything is new.
personally hate the graded region feature.
Okay.
However, it works just fine. I just like to copy paste to a different phase,
So you
but
copy and paste. Okay.
I mean, that's what the graded region essentially does. But yeah, you create the existing topo surface and copy that. Just like I say to my daughter, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, right? So I think a healthy, true BIM model should not have an existing surface excavated into. So that's just, a point that is important to kind of notice, I think.
Can you tell me, maybe we've discussed this in the past, but what is the problem with graded regions?
So what I think the issue is, I think it's a user experience issue, basically. The feature works just fine. It's just that you have to select the correct surface to copy, and then it just automatically creates a copy. And then for me, it's a user experience. And the issue that I have with it is when I try to explain to people what just happened.
It's basically just a copy and paste when you think about it.
Exactly. And that's why I rather just copy paste, because then you have more control over what phase you're copying to or from. And that's it. I mean, and also the other thing that I don't like about the graded region feature, and again, it's user experience, is that people think that that's the only way to get cut and fill calculation, and it's not. It's just, you should just have two surfaces in two different phases and you'll get the calculation. So again, that's my personal thing. I have a thing with the graded region feature. I never got it.
There's someone that asked a question from Sergey. If you create an existing toposolid with an existing building, then wouldn't it make sense for it to be excavated?
No, because I mean, if you create an existing surface with an existing building, then the surface would already have this data within it. It would not be excavated in the building. You know what I mean? I mean, the survey would come in such a way that this is what you'll get.
And what if you don't have this kind of information? For example, let's say that from a practical modeling standpoint, that you need to quickly create the hole for an existing building.
I would rather split this area and not have anything under it. And again, you should be really mindful of what your purpose. So for example, if your purpose would be, I don't know, this is an existing building and I'm just going to dig a little bit deeper, then maybe the good thing to do would be to model something like that. To model something like that and then excavate this part in the new construction phase. So then you have this information. So I think you should be really mindful of what is your purpose and what is the true process that would actually occur in real life. And then maybe in small projects, if you do something like that, and you're okay with not having an accurate survey, then that's you. Again, as a landscape architect, I'm really like, I have to have these things correct. I have to have a good survey. I have to have things behave the way they do. So yeah, that's what I think.
All right.
Okay, so we talked about phases, we talked about the new excavation tool, and there is another elephant in the room that we haven't talked about, and it is how do you get the fill calculation of everything that is going on over here, right? So the excavation tool only shows you the cut. Both the void mass in 2024 and the excavation tool are not the answer to how you model the field, right? And so, of course, there is the easy solution of just going to toposolid and modify sub-element. And by the way, a really cool new feature in Revit 2025 is that you have the snap option. So I can easily snap to these edges and start
this
to
one is really
model
nice.
the field. Although I did experience some glitches when it comes to round corners, I can't seem to really snap into them successfully, but I guess that'll be solved soon, I hope. So you see, there's some glitches with this feature, which makes me unjoin and stuff like that. So I still haven't figured out how to use it, and it's pretty manual. By the way, you guys can see that I still don't have environment in Revit 2025. We're working on it. It'll be available pretty soon. Don't worry.
Are you having issues with the new .NET 8? Like, I'm not a programmer, so I don't know everything that it means, but I've heard from a few plugin makers that it makes the job more complicated.
So I haven't heard from my programmers that we have issues with it. It is a lot of work, but from what I heard, it's good news because it's a better method. So
Okay.
it did create a lot of work for us, and this is why it's taking us a little bit of a while to make environment compatible with Revit 2025. But it should be much better when we're done. It's kind of making us do a lot of housekeeping, which is good. So yeah, so the way I see it, both mass void and excavation are not a good answer to how to fill the topography. And in this point, I want to like take a pause and ask a very philosophical question, which is, what is excavation, right? Because there is the literal meaning of excavation, which is just digging a hole. And this is Revit's approach to excavation. When they say the excavation tool, they mean how you dig something into the toposolid. But I tried to find a definition that really reflects how people see excavation in the industry, right? And I have this picture over here. Okay, so what is excavation? It's, I think, in the industry, as professionals, it's a little bit more than just digging a hole. And I actually wrote it down. So I was looking for a good definition. So it is the entire process of modifying the existing ground as preparation for the construction or landscaping process, right? This can include everything from creating perfectly flat building pads and roadways to slopes, swales, and basins for drainage and stormwater management, and also including earthwork fill to complete the site structure or layout for construction to start. So for me, when I talk about excavation, the way I see it being used in the industry whether it's civil engineers or landscape architects, excavation is the entire process of modifying the ground and preparing it for construction, right? Therefore, what I think about the new excavation tool, I think it can be really great for architects to get a better understanding of how they affect the existing topography. I think it can be a nice tool to understand the initial influence of tunnels on the topography, but I do not think this is a good tool to plan your site. It's not a good site design tool. It's not a tool for landscape architects, and I don't think it's a good tool to actually design your excavation when it comes to cut and fill. So that's Revit 2025 in this feature. And again, it can be a great feature to just start and get an understanding of what you're doing. It can be a great feature to replace the building pad, but it's not a site design feature the way I see it, because it is very, very limited in what it's doing. Now, as I said that, we can move to my favorite part, which is to show my approach to excavation, actually. And here you can see my Barbie house that I created here in Revit. Depends, if you ask my daughter, it's a unicorn house, right? And I think there are two parts to this excavation that I was talking about. The first part is what we usually call grading, right? So if you remember before, I was talking about the not one big surface approach. And for me, grading design is just starting piece by piece to stitch and saw your entire landscape site. And actually want to delete one of these and give you a quick example of how I do it, right? So my building is a little bit higher than my road, and I already designed the pathway and this front porch or whatever. And now I want to show you how I design my grading, right? With the not one big surface approach. So instead of just starting to push and pull this existing topography, I can go to the topography tools over here, and I can start to design my grading. So I'll start with placing elevation points on edges. Let's go with from edge, full edge. And I'm just going to select these edges over here. And before I insert these points, I just want them to be maybe 5 centimeters lower than my paths. Let's click on insert points. And let me select one point and maybe copy it to the side, because I want to create a bigger surface than the actual boundary that I need. I'm going to do it with this point as well. And the next stage of grading is, right, to decide where the water should go. So I'm going to use the slope path tool for that. I'm going to select this first point, and with this pink line, I want to define a slope that goes all the way over here. So I'm going to click again to place a point over here. And I want to define it as a negative, maybe 2% slope. Then I get an indication of where the elevation is. So now I have a pretty nice, design of this gardening area. And let's say I want to smooth out this topo surface. I have a lot of ways to do it. I actually want to show you a small feature that we have with the draw split line. So I'm going to draw the split line on a specific elevation that I know it will be good. And I'm going to use a spline for that. So let's just draw this split line using a nice spline. Click on escape. Once, insert split line, and I can really create nice smooth areas with that. Then I'm going to edit the sketch. Right. All right, let me move to a different view. Click on edit sketch. That's a small trick that I have. All right, so I'm going to edit this sketch with regular sketch tools. Just pick line, over here and over here. And let's create another line over here. So that was like a really quick example. Let's click on OK of how I design my grading. Let's click on finish. And then that's basically what I'm doing. I'm starting to design piece by piece until I have my design finished up. Now, even before I designed the finished excavation, right? We talked about two aspects of excavation. The one is grading. So even with the grading option, I can now go and activate the calculate earthwork feature and just get the earthwork quantities for all these elements. Wait, oh, I select this one and activate the earthwork. Oops, it's not working. I probably should restart my Revit for a second. Yeah, it worked just a second ago. The good news is that this feature is going to be a lot more stable in the new Revit version, of course. But if it happens, you could just restart your Revit and it works. So before it worked just perfectly.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
live demo. Murphy's Law.
Yeah. No matter how much you prepare. And I actually want to, I really want to show it to you live. So I'm just going to restart my Revit 2024 live show. And that's where I have to say that the person who got the 1-year subscription is really lucky, because I know there's a lot of great content over there, and actually know a lot of really big fans of your new platform. So,
good to hear. Yeah, I've been.
Yeah.
I'll say that I'm using it as somewhat of an experiment, with all the private live sessions, and also like some new content that I can add to the courses. So the courses are constantly being updated if there's new things. So it's kind of a little playground for me, the membership, I've got to say. And maybe while I see it's finished loading, but it was a few questions.
Yeah.
Secondary ask, can you use Dynamo to automatically excavate a construction model, such as foundations, etc.?
You mean with the excavation feature, with the new 2025 excavation feature? I have to say, I don't know. I mean, you're more of the Dynamo person.
Yeah. Okay,
but
so we'll have to see.
I'll definitely show another way of doing it. And I don't know if my screen is showing right now.
Yeah. Let's get back to it.
Yeah, so now we can actually get the calculate earthwork quantities for everything. You can see all, so that's what I like about toposolid, is that they replace floors. I don't need floors anymore. And I can actually get the calculation for every part of my landscape separately. And now for my favorite feature, and that's the second part of the excavation. And this is how you design something like that, right? How do you design the actual digging? Now, I have to say that in every project, it's somebody else's responsibility. A lot of times architects are not doing it. A lot of times landscape architects are not doing it, but a lot of times they do. So, and this is a feature which is still in beta, the create excavation. And I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but to make it simple, we created these diagrams. So you're basically selecting the elements that you want to affect the excavation, and then you have all kinds of parameters of how do you want to build your excavation. And that's what I mean by excavation is something that you actually have to design rather than just dig into the ground. So for me, I'm going to use a 45 degrees, sort of 45% slope. And I want to modify the existing topography. So let's click on that and select the existing topography. Now it's pink, my favorite. And now I can select all the elements that will affect the excavation. Please do not select subdivisions. It will not work with subdivisions. So I'm excluding it from my selection. You also have a filter here to allow you to maybe say, all right, I don't want to excavate the roof. In other cases, maybe you do. Let's click on apply and click on OK. And now you have to select the type of toposolid that you want to show the excavation. Click on OK and continue. So depending on the complexity of what you're trying to create the excavation for, it might take a long while. It is recommended to save your project before. Also, it's important to say that this feature environment supports Revit 2020 and up. So in earlier versions of Revit, you would have it working with a topo surface, and this topo surface at the moment would not be editable to keep accuracy. But yeah, it worked pretty well right now. And let's take a look at the result. So what it did, basically, it duplicated the surface that I chose as existing, and it duplicated it with the modification of the excavation. And let me show you the result. So if we go over here, you can already see, and you know what, let's change the type so we will see more elevation contours. Let's go like this. Yeah, so you see more contours right now. So you can see it modeled the fill that should go from the existing topography. And if we take a look at these points, it added a lot of points to make sure that this part is not modified. And the only parts that are modified is the slope that you define, the 45%, right? That goes all the way to the house. And I think the nicest way to look at it is if we use a section box and then kind of drive it in and see the result, right? So for the person who asked, how do we automatically take into consideration all of the walls, you just mark them all in the selection. And you can see that I chose 30 centimeter distance from the elements and 10 centimeters distance from the top. That's how I wanted to model that. So that's really great. That's a feature that we have been working on for quite a while. And I mean, there's more to it coming. There are other stages that we do want to develop, but this is the first stage to just allow you to automatically have the excavation process. And I think another thing that is really nice about it is that it gives you an indication of how much of the area you are actually influencing, right? So if you have to dig 45% slope to get to the wall, then you know that you're influencing all the way to here. And that's also an important information that you should know. Are you allowed to influence such an area? So I think it also helps with some design questions.
Yeah, and in the chat there was a discussion with David and Hey Hain. And Hey Hain previously was saying there are other software suites for angle excavation, forcing Revit to also have it. Maybe more headache than it's worth. But I think you've actually proved that person wrong, and now seems pretty impressed with the excavation.
Again, what did he say? I didn't hear. I didn't get it.
It is there are other software suites for angle excavation, forcing Revit to also have it. Maybe more headache than it's worth. But as I've said, I think that you've just proved otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, we got Revit to do pretty crazy stuff,
Yeah.
and we get better at it with time. However, it is important for me to say that we do support other approaches, right? So, for example, I mean, you wouldn't always design the excavation, and sometimes you would design it in Civil 3D. And this is something that we're dealing with it a lot the past year and a half of interoperability in general, right? So in this case that you see over here, this is an excavation of a house that was designed entirely within Civil 3D, and you can bring it directly in your model as a Revit topography using the external civil data feature with environment, and it just brings Civil 3D elements, allows you to reload them, reload from. So again, I don't think you necessarily have to design the excavation. Maybe, yes, for a lot of architects, simply the 2025 excavation feature is okay. But I would urge you to keep in mind that this is what excavation look like, even if you don't do it through your design. So even if you get the excavation from the civil engineer, I would definitely suggest to embed it into your model and just understand that if your work boundary is this, your building should be this because you have excavation work. Sometimes, again, I mean, sometimes, right? Depends how do you do it. And again, for me, this is something to take into consideration. And even if you work with the Civil 3D.
There's a question in the chat about someone asking about linked files. So what if like the site is in one file and the foundations are in a linked Revit model? How does that work?
So currently, I hope I'm giving a right answer. Oh my God. So our excavation feature is not working with linked elements, and I hope my boss would not kill me right now. I think that's the thing. But you can definitely click on function F1 and get to Arc Intelligence, sorry, user guide, and check this over there. I do think it's a good practice to keep your site model separately from your building model. And there's a lot of workarounds that you could do for that. You can bring it back and forth, I think, but I do think it's generally a good practice to keep your site model on a linked file. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely what I recommend. Also for the whole coordinate system setup, it's much easier this way, especially if you have like a campus style projects with multiple buildings. It makes it so much easier. Okay, do you want to go to there's a few more questions. Do you have more to show us like, about excavation before we
Yeah,
get to
I mean,
questions?
I did want to show you some other environment features and to briefly talk about what's coming up, but we can take some questions and then do it, or do it the other way around, whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a few questions. Then we can. Like, there was a question from. Where is it? I cannot find it anymore. Yeah, a question from a member of BIM Pure. In fact, I've talked about the Guardians community, which is our private community, and someone asked if they need to do irrigation. And
that's a great question.
Do you do irrigation with Revit? I wasn't sure what to say.
It's a
Like, it's like
landscape
that's not my thing.
architect. If so, I urge you to contact us. And if you're doing irrigation,
Yeah,
so interestingly,
someone doing
yeah.
landscape work. So it's not like a civil engineer. Someone doing landscape work, but interested in all the irrigation stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have to say I'm fascinated with the topic of irrigation for a long time now, and currently the workflow to do it in Revit. My favorite workflow at the moment is just using plain lines and families that are line-based symbols. But yeah, we're looking into it, and I think within this year, hopefully, we will already have an irrigation feature that leverages the pipes in Revit. So the way I see it, Revit has all the infrastructure to create a perfect irrigation plan. But we're just looking into streamlining it and making it more landscape friendly.
So it's in the pipelines for the future.
It's in the pipeline, and if this is someone who knows a lot about irrigation and knows what they want, please contact us and give us your feedback so we will take it into consideration. We always like to hear from clients.
Okay, I think that was it for the questions for now. So if you have more questions, like it's still time to ask. Else, I think you can show some more new features. You've been talking about the Rhino assets. Is that what you wanted to show?
Yeah, I wanted to show two features. So again, we're dealing a lot with interoperability. So there are two features that I wanted to show. One before the Rhino asset is the new point cloud to topography feature, which is pretty insane. And we're getting really good results with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly link a point cloud into my model. And I think it goes well with our conversation. So the purpose of this feature is to automatically identify which parts of the point cloud are topography. And so it allows you to quickly create your survey or existing topography from a point cloud. And let's see how it works. we actually got some crazy results and crazy reports from clients on just how easy and fast it was. So I'm really excited about this feature. So I'm going to take this point cloud, and just for the demonstration, I'm just going to take a tiny section of it to create into topography. So let's click on specify region, and let's pick this intersection over here. Click apply region, and you can see the region in 3D. You can actually change it, skip region or whatever. I'm going to create now, and then you can select the specific type. And again, this one works with other versions of Revit. So from 2020 to 2023, the result will be a topo surface. And in 2024, this will be a toposolid. And then the purpose of our algorithm is to just exclude from the toposolid all points that are not a surface, right? So let's create a section box over here. And you can see that the building, the walls are not included, or the trees are not included into it. But what's nice is the level of accuracy that you're getting here. Let me show you a part where we have a sidewalk, right? So take a look at it. It's really, really cool. You can get some really crazy results. And the craziest story that we have, and we're going to publish it soon, we had a client in Norway scanning a forest, and it took them days to just scan it. But then the algorithm was able to extract the topography from underneath all the thick trees, and get within minutes, get them the result that they need, and it was pretty accurate. So this one, I think I'm pretty excited about it, and yeah, that's a nice way to start your project with the existing surface. The other one, of course, and this is
wait, just before you go, so there's a few questions. But first, that's pretty impressive. Is that using AI, or it's just an algorithm that picks the point?
Just an algorithm. Yeah,
okay.
No AI over here. I mean, maybe, I don't know. They don't tell me all the secrets because I'm not good at keeping them. So
okay, there was a question like, does it create a toposolid? Is it locked, linked to anything? So let's say you remove a wall, would it update the toposolid? Okay, I'm not sure if he's actually talking to the other about the other one, the Barbie's house, maybe.
If you're talking about the excavation tool, then no, it's not linked to anything, and there's a reason behind it, because we're just using API, and if we link a lot of things to one another too much, it would just make your model crazy heavy. So it's not the most sustainable approach. We do try to have auto update whenever we can, but not always. So the better approach would be to maybe lock this topography and manually create changes. Maybe in the future, once we get this feature maybe faster, that might be a possibility. Yeah.
Okay, and there was another question from, okay, I think it's been answered in the chat already, but it's, what is the limit of points that Revit can handle? So that's more maybe a Revit question than an environment.
What's the amount of points on a toposolid that Revit can handle?
Yeah, I think it's maybe the point cloud, I guess, or is it the toposolid? I'm not sure, but it's, I think your colleagues answered in the chat. So
what did they say?
No limits, depending on the machine and time it's quite quick though.
Yeah, so that's the answer. I think if you select that point cloud with toposolids in general, regardless of our features, I think that more than 10,000 points there, they get a little bit slow. But I wouldn't take that as a rule, because Autodesk is really improving that from one version to another. So in 2025, we can already see really, really good improvements with the performance of the toposolid. So
okay, let's go to the other feature.
Right. So let me just delete this one from here. So the other really exciting feature, again, interoperability. So we saw Civil 3D, we saw point cloud, and now the Rhino assets. So we were actually inspired by our clients. Um, I mean, the approach today is that you should combine few software to get your wanted results. And a lot of our clients have this process where they do their preliminary design, their sketch, their concept design in Rhino and move it into Revit. And we were thinking about a good approach a lot for landscape architects as well. I mean, that's our focus, but it's good for everyone. We were thinking what would be the easiest approach to just bring things from Rhino into Revit. So we created this Rhino assets feature, and it just allows you to directly bring a Rhino project into Revit. Let's find some Rhino projects. Maybe, yeah, this one. This one can be good. Right. So you don't have to have Rhino installed. You can just bring it in, whether it's shared coordinates or not. You can select the level, you can select the units. You can also specify specific layers that you want to bring. I'm going to bring all of them for this example and click on OK. And so to start, we're just bringing the geometry as a direct shape. But what's nice is that we allow you to see these elements as if just the way they are organized in Rhino. So you have layer, object name, and then you have the option to import into Rhino, into Revit as. So again, I'm not going to go into all the details. I'm just going to show you two nice things. The first one is that if you have a block, then you can go over here to this 3 dots and either replace this block with a Revit family or just create a new Revit family from this geometry, which is what I want to show you now. So I'm going to create a new family called Rhino tree. It's going to be a planting family. And let's just leave the material by category right now. But you can definitely get the material from Rhino if you want. And then just behind the scenes, environment is taking this Rhino geometry and making it into a Revit family. And again, you could just choose any family that you have, but for this example, I thought it would be nice to demonstrate that. And the other thing that you could do is select any surface and turn it and select which Revit category it will be in. And with toposolids, topographies, and floors, we also allow you to import it as a system family. So it's an editable system family. Once you click on Apply System Family, you could just select any type that you want. We are planning to allow these for walls, but we wanted to start by focusing on topographies and floors because these are the elements that we most utilize. Right? But also other elements that you can't bring as system families, you could just put them in a category. So I have my stairs layer, and where is the stairs? And then I could just make sure that it will be within the stairs category, even though it will remain a direct shape, right? So now I'm going to click on OK. And it is basically grouped when we bring it. It helps us locate it correctly. I can ungroup, it wouldn't do anything. And so you can see these trees, these are a Revit family. And the coolest thing is that I can now edit type. Wait, why is it looking like that? Okay. So now I can edit the type of this family and maybe change the height to, I don't know, 15, click on apply. And it grows. So it actually knows how to calculate the height from the Rhino object to the Revit family. And you can do it for all kinds of things. So if you want to create a crazy bench or a crazy pergola in Rhino and just bring it into Revit as a family, that's pretty easy. And here is the toposolid that I just created. So it's a completely editable toposolid, and you can edit it either with Revit native tools, or in my case, I always prefer with environment tools, because then you can also edit the sketch, you can refine your toposolid, you can change and edit and delete the points and maybe pick the from edge and, make it more accurate, just like I'm doing right now.
Cool. So this is not just meant for landscape, right? So someone has been asking if they can use it for architectural elements as well.
Yes, you can use it for everything. We allow to apply category for all the elements. We allow to apply material for all the elements. But however, when it comes to system families, we're currently supporting toposolids, floors, and roofs. We will expand that into walls pretty soon. So already there is so much that you could do with it. And yeah, you can also reload it. So there's a lot of options. I urge you to investigate the interface and of course, give us feedback. We're very fast at improving these features. So we released it, I think, 2 or 3 months ago, and we already did like 3 improvements in it, the interface and how it works. So yeah, we're working hard on this feature. It's a great success, I think. A lot of people are interested in it.
Good. So can you remind us where to find the environment plugin for Revit? How long is the trial?
Yeah.
How students can get it? All these details.
Arcintelligence.com. That's where you can get environment for Revit a free trial. We have a 1-month free trial. And if you are a student, just go ahead and go to the education tab and just request for an educational license. If you're a professor, we also help with some learning materials, and you can just ask for an academic license if you're a professor. So yeah, a lot of ways to get a free trial. If you want a demo, just contact us here. We really make a huge effort answering to anyone as fast as we can.
Okay, good. So just give me a quick sec so I can remind people of a couple of things. First, next week, April 24th, same time, 3 p.m. with Dan Stein from Lake Flato, also a well-known blogger, talking about Forma and sustainability, carbon analysis, solar, and how to link it to Revit. So that's next week. And also the new, if you like what you just heard, Nehama is an amazing teacher, and we've collaborated to create a small mini course called BIM for Landscape 101. It's at bimpure.com/landscape. If you're watching live or within the next couple of days of the session being released, there's a promotion to get 20% off. So the way to get this course is to subscribe to the BIM Pure membership, which also includes our whole collections of Revit courses, downloadable contents, access to the community, live masterclasses, new content updates, and much more. That's at bimpure.com/landscape. Okay, and back to you, Nehama. So once again, thanks you so much for this session. That was amazing as usual.
Always a pleasure. I really like being in your show.
And
I think I qualify to be called a regular by now.
yeah, a regular. Yeah, I think you're definitely the person that came the most often at Fort Time for sure. So congrats and thanks everybody in the chat for being here, asking great questions as usual, and we'll see you next week. See you. Bye.